which were won by the ruling All Progressives Congress candidate Bola Tinubu. The main opposition accused INEC of compromise and described 2023 as the worst election Nigeria had ever witnessed since the return to democracy in 1999.
Okay, so I, I really don't know what the protest is all about, but they've done the protest yesterday and they've submitted their protest letter to INEC. I know there has been complaints about the process of how the elections were conducted, the general issues, and so on. They've also gone to court,
Mm.
and they're telling Nigerians that they are going to continue to protest either every day or every other day until something is done. So I really don't know what they want INEC to do. INEC has come out with its own statements that yes, there were flaws in how the presidential elections went by. So for me, let's be careful, because if the presidential candidate and the senior members of the PDP, um, of the party, are continually going to INEC, um, what what are they what are they signifying? Are they asking innocent Nigerians to go out to go and protest in front of INEC
Mm.
and carry placards? Um, I think this should not continue. I think they should go through the courts. I think Nigerians as a whole, if they do believe that, or they think, not if they think that the conduct of the presidential elections were not as expected, they should go out on Saturday, March 11th, and protest with their votes once again. Go out on mass. I've continually said this. This is my opinion. I've asked my friends like Zibi and all the other people who I know around all the networks to tell Nigerians the same thing. Go out again, because every time we increase the number of people who go out and vote, we're making a statement that democracy is actually a government of the
Mm.
people, by the people, for the people, and not having to go out on the streets protesting that could lead to um, hoodlums and those with nefarious thoughts taking over the what's it called, and then it results into violence. Nigerians have the right to protest peacefully, and that's true. But of course, also some of these things can agitations can come from either side, and then it turns into violence, and then it turns into something else, which could lead to loss of lives and property. So let's be careful. They've done their protest, they've submitted their letters, they should go back and discuss with their lawyers and go through the process of ensuring that if they believe and feel that they won, or their mandate has been stolen, or the process was wrong,
Mm.
through the courts, and let the courts tell us that.
Right. So basically, some of these protests on the streets at the INEC office are not going to change a thing.
No, it won't.
Right.
The only thing it would, for me, that it would do, and which, in quote, INEC has already said, oh, they've seen the flaws, they're going to ensure that they improve on the way the BVAS is working and how the results are going to be transmitted. But let's also remember now that the the Saturday elections are local elections, it's not across board.
Mm.
So it might be easier for you to say, okay, I'm dealing with Lagos and I'm dealing with Lagos, I'm dealing with Anambra, I'm dealing with a state in the north, and so on. But for me, I don't think this is warranted, because it just starts to put at the back of the mind of other Nigerians who think that this is the best way to go, to start going onto the streets. I don't want innocent Nigerians on the street. Instead of being on the street, let's all prepare. Are you with me? Once again for March 11. Take your time. Whenever the officials come,
Mm.
we make sure that one, we cast our votes, we get accredited, we cast our votes are counted, and Nigerians are allowed to take a picture of the results of the form EO6 8. So we should do that.
All right, I've got a message coming through. This one is from Ajayi. Ajayi says Alhaji Atiku Abubakar and the PDP will do well to stick to their legal challenge against the outcome of the presidential elections instead of embarking on what could be a destructive journey of street protests. Shegun um, says, okay, thank you, Shegun, for your message. I'll be back to that one in a bit. But let's move on to the next story. Still on the elections now, INEC says it needs to reconfigure the BVAS for the next round of elections. It says it would require sufficient time to do this reconfiguration in order to conduct the governorship and House of Assembly elections that are holding across the country.
I guess one of the reasons they're asking, now they're saying this, is because of the fact that there has been a challenge in court. The court has given the parties challenging the right to access election um, materials, of which the BVAS is one of them. But for me, if the information on the BVAS has been backed up onto the main server, then it doesn't change the fact that the information is there. So those information can be retrieved from the server and be checked along with what the parties who are challenging have. So the reconfiguration, I don't know what they mean that it will take some time. It's like me resetting my phone and taking it to factory settings. So how many beavers are we talking about? Sometimes when they speak this, when they say these things, it makes the layman feel or think, and this is my opinion. It could be true in their in this regard, but it makes the layman think that it's one rocket science thing that you need to do. So you need to plug it into one place and inject something into it and make it come back to zero. The good thing about technology equipment is there's what you call an audit trail from wherever it comes to. So if you go through that, and those who know how to check those things, forensic auditors and all in technology space will be able to check what happened to a machine over time. So maybe this is just to also tell us that if on Saturday the BVAS is not uploading, it was because they didn't have enough time to reconfigure. I don't know. I'm not speculating. I'm just saying.
Okay. Shegun says Atiku will be 80 at the next elections. I can understand his protest. This could be his last chance to run. Fabian, this message from Fabian says, I wish the Lagos state government would come out to state categorically that Lagos is open to all tribes, ages, religions, and put things in place to ensure the safety of everyone before this Saturday's elections and beyond. Well, the Constitution, I think, has already given every Nigerian that assurance. Toye says they're protesting because they don't believe in the courts. Um, if your life was on the line, would you honestly and truly trust the Nigerian judicial system 100%? And he ends that message by saying, food for thought. And another message from Gary Newton says, this INEC update to me might be to clear certain things. All right, let's go on to the next story. And this one is coming from Punch. Now, deposit money banks in the country have started a partial compliance with the Supreme Court's order approving the use of the old 1,500 and 200 naira notes as legal tender till the end of the year. Now, the Supreme Court ordered the old naira notes should be allowed in circulation along with the new naira notes.
Okay, so this is a bit. I, I don't want to call it complex, but it's a bit.
It's not
Let's
straight.
yeah, it's not straight. Like, thank you for helping me with that. So yes, the Supreme Court says bring back the 1,000 and the 500. Fair enough. CBN, before the case, or when the case went to the Supreme Court initially, says, oh, they burnt most of the 500s and the 1,000 that have come to them. What was left was the 200, and that's why, based on the president's speech, 200 was brought back into the system. That's another part. The third part of it is that, yes, it's true. Yes, it could be true that most of it is burnt by the CBN or has been disposed by the CBN. Some of the banks who collected towards the last minute,
Yes.
extensions, no extensions, based on the back and forth, have held on to some of it and have not moved it to the CBN. So they might have some of it within their vaults across the country. So that's a third part. So with that, some of those banks might be able to do that and say, oh, well, even if I do it, I'm complying with the Supreme Court judgment. The second part of it is CBN hasn't given any directive with respect to this. They've been mourned. They've not said anything about it. Maybe they are discussing with their legal teams, or they're looking at, if they don't have it, what are the other remedies that they could quickly put in place in terms of getting out even additional new notes. So these are things that are not, like I said, are not straightforward. But what I think CBN should do is quickly come out and tell Nigerians, okay, this is how much we think is left in circulation. Not necessarily mentioning the banks, and working with the banks to find out how much they have, how much they need to quickly bring back into, additional funds that they need to bring in this case, whether it's new notes or even the 200 naira that are with the CBN, so that the cash can start coming back again, and some people will start to believe that there's movement of cash, based on what the speculations that have been going around and been said. The CBN doesn't want more than between 700 billion and a trillion naira in cash within the system. So all these things are playing out. At what point are they going to send out the circular? I have no clue. If some of the banks have said we're not paying out, so it doesn't mean that some of the banks, or at least a number of banks, have some of these old currencies are most likely collected towards the end of the exercise.
Right, we've got some messages coming through. Abbas says reconfiguration doesn't mean there will be data loss. Backups are done for every data stored on a particular hard drive. Reconfiguration may be done to make it work optimally. The BVAS was reconfigured after Oshun and Ekiti elections.
And it didn't work optimally.
We shouldn't
Abbas,
make
don't mind me. I'm just, I'm trying to be the devil's advocate.
right. We shouldn't make this look like it's something outside the box, as people are already doing. It's because of issues like this that INEC approached courts. And Dele from Aja says, I have evidence that the elections held had lots of irregularities. People should not go about their lives in bitterness. It will only lead to unproductive life and living. Okay. Adiola says PDP is crying wolf. The election was theirs to win if the egos of Atiku, Obi Kwankwaso, and the G5 were minimal, um, as Tinubu won with about 35% of total votes cast. What an opportunity cost. Okay. Omogbai says, I don't know what the PDP and Atiku are trying to achieve with the protest to the INEC headquarters. I expect more from someone with wide experience. If the plan is to try and force the hand of INEC to overturn the election results, then I am disappointed. Let's take a quick break. We'll continue the conversation on the other side. This is Freshly Pressed on Smooth 98.1.
Like insurance, anxiety away,
I
value.
don't know what Article wants.
Sorry?
I said I don't know what Article wants, but you should be very, very careful and not throw people on the streets, because the next thing now, people, and once they will kill anybody. Unfortunately, they will.
Can't have that
They
though.
can't have that violence. You can't.
And the problem is sometimes people have a legitimate cause, but opportunist criminals will hijack the movement.
Even if the opportunist criminals don't want to hijack it, some people will instigate it, because there's always a reason to look for something to. So when I instigate it, someone will come in and then they'll burn one car or break one car, and then the police people will shoot the tear gas, and one person will die, and everybody now says, oh, there must be.
Right.
If you want to riot, March 11, go and riot against the local. What's it called? When you chase, see, when incumbents who are running for a second term, eh?
Yeah.
Or
Sorry? There's a message. I can see a message. But
you
we'll
know,
read it when we go on.
or okay,
Going
Naka.
back up. Yeah.
The best combination of radio and coffee.
This is Freshly Pressed on Smooth 98.1. It's Zibi here, and my analyst this morning is Wade. We're looking at these stories making the headlines. As always, we love it when you send your thoughts through. The WhatsApp number to send your messages to is 0809 4440981. You can also tweet at Smooth981. I've got a message on the live stream, and it's from Michael. Michael says, why is no one talking about security issues for the March 11th elections? Threats have been issued here and there. Let's go on to take a few more messages. This one is from Orov. Orov says Atiku knows there may be no salvation at the court, so he's trying to seek other means. Okay. Ehi says, I know because I work in banks. The banks still have the old notes. The issue is the CBN not providing guidance, and that is just unfair to businesses and people that truly need the cash. I have to say, Wade, I've had 3,000 naira for about a month now. I've been holding on to that 3,000 naira. It almost feels like 300,000 naira.
Maybe that's what it is. No, but like I said, it's not impossible for banks to have at least even the last set of cash that came in, and because of the back and forth, they just hold on to it and they have not moved it to CBN because you can't move all the cash in one day. The CBN would take as much as they can on a daily basis and schedule banks to bring them in, but also, like he said, let the CBN issue a guideline and then we know where we are.
This message from Tayo. Tayo says the Naira redesign is now a policy flip flop. I wonder much of a success it was before the Supreme Court ruling. Ajayi says some commercial banks actually dispensed the old 500 and 1,000 naira notes yesterday, which I saw. But people are not ready to transact business with them yet. I believe the CBN has given directive to the banks. Okay, Opeyemi Praise says it's only normal for right-thinking Nigerians to be skeptical about the reconfiguration when in a broad day on national broadcast it does appear INEC may have reneged on its own procedures. Let's move on to the next story, and this one comes from Punch. The Central Bank of Nigeria has disbursed 114.17 billion naira to beneficiaries under its 100 for 100 policy on production and productivity since the commencement of the intervention. Now, the CBN Governor Godwin Emefiele says the funds were expended on 71 projects across healthcare, manufacturing, and agricultural sectors.
Okay, so before I speak on this, let me just give a background to the context of the 100 for 100. It's a program that was launched in January of 2022 towards looking at select 100 private sector companies with projects that have potential to significantly increase production and productivity in a short space, towards reducing non-oil export dependence on oil exports and increasing non-oil exports, foreign exchange capabilities, and also saving some of it because some of those things we could one quickly produce them in Nigeria and all. In a year, just barely over a year, the CBN has gone ahead to expend 114 billion in 71 projects. What I don't see here is one. Maybe if I go into the reports, I would look for the report based on this, and look at how many projects, where these projects are, what stages they are in, what capacity has increased. Especially they're looking at areas that are brownfield, meaning they're already in existence or close to being in existence, and then you're trying to upscale. In terms of upscaling, what are the things that needed to be done, and how quickly have they moved from where they are currently to where they will be, or new projects that in a space of maybe 12 to 18 months you could quickly put in these monies and start to produce. And so these are the things CBN is not telling us. They're just telling us that they've invested 114 billion in 71 projects. Give us the details of the projects, at least for us to know where they are, what their contribution is in terms of monies that have been spent to back into the system. Have they increased production, and has it reduced importation of A or B or C or ID, as the case may be. So these things I don't know. I would probably check on it and maybe have a discussion on that maybe sometime in the near future.
Right, let's go on to our messages. Abbas says, but is it not too hasty for the CBN to burn the old Naira notes when they have not actually mopped up everything from the system? The CBN governor will have a lot of answering to do after his tenure. The policy is still in contention, and a good agency would have waited for the dust to settle before taking such actions.
I do think some of the reasons why some of these things are done, I don't know if they burnt it all that has gone to them,
Yeah.
but some of it is storage.
Mm,
We're talking about
storage.
2.1 trillion naira, 2.7 trillion, or about thereabout storage. Like I said, some of the banks will still have some of it, but the CBI needs to show us some guidance by giving us some guidelines on what to do and how to do, and how to go
So,
about it.
just curious, if you go out and you make a payment, maybe you pay with some of the new cash that you have, and they offer you the old notes in um, as change, would you be accepting it?
Yeah, I will. I will. Why? Because the central bank has said that. I don't know how long the CBN will go and try and dilly-dally on this. I guess they are looking at in totality how much cash is available from what they have, from within the banking system, the new notes that have been printed, the 200 naira, and then they are deciding, okay, fine, I guess we have enough, and then everybody will. You see, I think you just need to give that comfort that there's enough cash in the system. You would now start to see both the old and the new come back, and then gradually can take out the old ones and replace them with additional new ones. Like I said, I don't think the CBN governor or the CBN as it is today, in time, let me not say the governor, the CBN management as it is today wants Nigerians to have more, wants to have more than between 700 billion and a trillion naira a cash within the system. So that's what I hear. So I don't know how that would work out.
All right. Godwin says the CBN should just obey the court order allowing people to spend their old and new notes, while banks should accept and pay out the old and new. With time, the banks will make up for the difference in circulation. Nee says for the cash, we need to wait till after Saturday's election before all parties comply.
Probably that's why they've been stalling.
Okay, and Shegun says, so the CBN governor made a statement about 100 for 100, but did not talk about the Naira policy. And BDA, I will come back to that message shortly, but let's go on to this from this day. Now, the federal government is galvanizing local and international support for the projected 869 billion Naira 2023 population and housing census. There have been appeals for technical and financial assistance in key activities yet to be implemented for the exercise. Now, the census is slated for between the 29th of March and the 2nd of April this year.
I know we need the census. It's important that we haven't done a census in almost
2006, I believe.
about 17 years. However, like I continue to say, and the timing, is it the right timing? Maybe. Now, for me, you want to do the enumeration. How are we going to link it to other systems that have become very important to the Nigerian system in terms of identification? The NIN. Are we just going to go there with another piece with people taking their piece of paper, are you with me, and writing the number of people in your household? Are you going to make inquiries of those who have the NIN within each household?
Right.
Are you going to bring in that fact that we could quickly register people on the NIN? Because the NIN is for every Nigerian, old, young, babies, and all, so that we can have a more robust database of the NIN, which would reflect better in terms of the population census across board. And then going forward, we know that we have a starting point after the census, you get, of how to record one, new births, those who are dead who will be taken out of the NIN system, and so on and so forth. That I don't see here, but we're planning to spend almost 1 trillion naira. So we're going around asking, cap in hand, begging, and so on. And if we're able to touch the next story, then I'll be able to translate it into what I mean by going cap in hand to go and beg for 869 billion in this regard. Maybe we should quickly look at that quickly.
Yes. Okay. So this is from Punch. The president decrying unfair debt burden on poor countries.
Now look at what I'm talking about. How so the president has gone out every in the last year complaining about why debts of poor countries should be written off. But they say he who comes to is it justice or equity must come with clean hands. Where the monies that have been given to you you've not been transparent enough for us to see where they've gone into and see the so you say they go into projects where we can't see the returns on those projects. I don't see anybody who is going to borrow you money and think it's not for free. But you must show some level of commitment, some level of transparency. We've moved our debt from about 12 to 15 trillion. As at yesterday, the last count was over 50 trillion. So these are the things they were talking about. And then you go out there and say, oh, the debts, the cost is too high, ABC, XYZ, write it off. But when you write it off and we don't see the things that he has created, then that's where we have a problem. And it's the same thing we're talking about the census. You want to do a census, you want to spend almost a trillion naira. I can't see how you're linking it to other things that would improve identification information of Nigerians. And let me just leave it at that.
Okay, Chibuzo says, at the end of the day, I think CBN needs to realign the cashless policy and bring in all its components, including the Naira policy, to meet its targets. It's a necessary journey, but we need to align all parts of the systems. Systems thinking requires us to link different actions to a goal. The census is one action. If managed properly, it can solve election-related issues, identification issues, and security issues. The only challenge is Nigerians, and if we see this as a standalone activity. Fabian says, just like with the introduction of the new Naira notes, I feel the census is ill-timed. Why can't the government just wait for the incoming one to carry it out? What is worth doing well. That is all the time that we have for Freshly Pressed this morning. Thank you for listening. Thank you for your messages. And special thanks to you, Wade, my analyst.
Thank you for always having me in the studio. Have a great day ahead.
Do stay with us. There's a lot more to come on the Smooth Breakfast.
It's at Hallmark Insurance. Anxiety